Welcome back to Satisfactory, and today I believe that we're going to make a lot of new progress, because last time we unlocked a lot of new handy upgrades for ourselves as well as our factories from research within the MAM, and with help from a rather broken truck, we established a factory up that creates our computers for us and delivers them to this truck station here, eventually, alongside our new manufacturer, which is creating our heavy modular frames, and a new refinery setup, which is creating our plastic as well as some rubber. We were then able to take those components and blast our way through the tier 5 upgrades, with the alternative fluid transport being a significant upgrade, as it's going to allow us to package some fuel, which in turn we'll be able to use as fuel for the fuel generators and hopefully help out our power management issues. And in fact, once I collect myself some more encased industrial beams alongside some more computers, we'll actually get this upgrade. And just like that, we have all of the components required for the upgrade, so let's get it. We now have our fuel generators, and I completely forgot that also gives us access to our Mark IV conveyor belts, so we can now transport up to 480 resources per minute, which does mean that I'll finally be able to go through the factory across the way and start tidying it up. But first things first, let's look at the fuel generators, which are a bit expensive to make, requiring 5 computers, 10 heavy modular frames, 15 motors, 50 rubber and 50 quick wire. But we've got factories making all of these items for us, so that's not really a worry to me. We also unlocked this packager building last time as well, which I believe is a new building for update 4, and this will take our fluids and allow them to be transported as packages instead. So I could feasibly transport 40 packaged fuel every minute, from 40 cubic meters of fuel and 40 empty canisters, with the empty canisters being something that I can now make within a constructor at a rate of 60 per minute from 30 plastic per minute. Although I do believe whenever it comes to unpackaging the fuel, I can get the canisters back, so I don't actually need to make too many of them because they will be recycled within the system. So that is one potential way that I could handle things here. I could package our fuel from a refinery setup, bring them out to this factory here, and then feed them into some form of array of fuel generators. Or a second potential way would just simply be taking the fuel fluid from our refineries and just putting them straight into some fuel generators out at the refinery plant. It would all just really depend on how much I'm going to require packaged fuel. If it's purely just for our fuel generators, I might as well just use it in liquid form, but if I could use our packaged fuel for something else, I would be better taking it out here. I know that the Jetpack actually uses packaged fuel, our trains don't, because they just purely work off of our power grid. So yes, I get the feeling it's just myself that would use the packaged fuel for now, so I think I will just establish a fuel generating plant across the way and we'll just start making some power over there. So I'm just in the middle of setting up some fuel generators and just playing around with some numbers, but I think I might need some power slugs for that. But I have just stumbled across what I think may be a crash site along here, although I can't actually see where the hard drive may be, but we do have some heat sinks here. Actually, I can see where the hard drive is. It's just a bit further up there, but I'm also aware there's a rather big nasty up there as well. So this can only go well. And there's the big nasty up there actually. Great. Well, the nasty's down, so what do we need? We need 2 high-speed connectors, which we can make with quick wire, cable and circuit boards. And just rather fortunately for me, I've got enough components just to make the 2 of them. So let's get this hard drive. And in 10 minutes time, we'll get ourselves a nice new blueprint. Well, back to slug hunting. I'll see you guys in a second. So I'm back after that little outing, and we have our fuel generators set up here. We've got 6 of them set up, and each of them are going to give us out 150 megawatts each, so we're going to produce 900 megawatts in total from this system. And although it's not yet turned on, so I can't actually be sure of this, from the wiki I believe that we're going to require 12 fuel inside these every minute, which for the 6 of them is 6 times 12 for 72, so we need to be producing at least 72 fuel every minute, which is exactly what the refinery is going to do here. And I've overclocked our oil extractor just to ensure that we still get the right amount of crude oil out just to do all of this. So we'll put our solid biofuel into these biomass burners and see if we can at least get this setup started. We're going to require 132 megawatts to begin with. Well, we'll just overclock these and try again. Well, the biomass burners aren't really cutting it, but I do think our main power grid has enough to spare, so I think we'll connect it up to it and just see if we can get this turned on. And that seems to have done the trick, so our oil refinery is now working, and we are very quickly producing our fuel here, as well as our polymer resin, which for now I'm just going to store and eventually sink. And I can hear the rhythmic pulses of our fuel generators now working, so I think everything is looking okay here. And yes, they are actually using 12 cubic meters of fuel every minute, so everything here should be fine. Cool. Well, there's an additional 900 megawatts now going into our power grid, which I really hope means our power management issues are going to be put at bay for quite some time. But now that we are producing as much power, I think it's finally time we look into these power storage units, which I think we just attach to the main grid, and it should slowly start filling up, which I can see a little indicator here saying that it might be. And it looks as if it's going to take about an hour until it's full, because we are only charging this at a rate of 100 megawatts, and it's actually only going to be able to hold 100 megawatts of power inside it anyway. So yes, I think we can finally make a small array of these power storage buildings and get some power stored. Well, I would like to make some packaged fuel here as well, but just purely because of the way I've designed this factory, we've actually sat things on top of the other impure oil node. But we do have some other oil nodes just about a kilometre away, so I may head over to them, check their purity, and see if we can establish anything over there. Well, our oil nodes are actually fairly close by, although all the way down there. So I'm really glad I spent all of this time climbing this mountain. Well, this is interesting. We are actually on top of some water just now, but we have found an impure crude oil node here, and we do have another one right in front with some nasties, so I reckon that one might be a better purity. Well, no is the answer. We just have another impure one, but we do have a sneaky third one just across the way. Any bets it's impure as well. Some more nasties around it, and a normal one. Okay, that's a little bit better then. Well, I certainly could make up a small factory just to make the packaged fuel over there. But to begin with, I'm going to put down this MAM and check on our blueprint, which we have some rather interesting options to choose from. Although I'd say with the adhered iron plate, because it requires rubber, that may not be a wise one for me to choose for now. And the fabric is fine, because it would allow us to use the polymer resin scraps that we've got. So I'm thinking about just going for the casted screws, which is going to require 5 iron ingots to make 20 of them. We can actually make them at a rate of 50 per minute, which isn't too much of an increase from the 40 that we can make per minute, but it is saving a step because we won't need those iron rods. Well, we'll go with the screws anyway. But let's make some packaged fuel, which ends up looking something like this. So I'm using the 3 oil nodes around the place with extractors on top of all of them, and having them come in to feed 6 refineries. We have 3 of the refineries taking in crude oil and giving us out our fuel as well as a polymer resin residue. The polymer resin comes out from the refineries and goes into a further 2 refineries in front, which alongside some water will turn it into some residual plastic. So these 2 refineries are then making us 40 plastic every minute, with the original refineries making us 120 cubic meters of fuel every minute. The other 3 refineries are just making us plastic at a rate of 20 per minute, so we're getting a further 60 plastic out every minute, alongside 30 cubic meters of heavy oil residue. The 60 plastic from these refineries come out and meet the 40 plastic from the 2 refineries here, making 100 in total, which we split so we have 30 going into each constructor to make us 60 empty canisters every minute, with the remaining plastic just simply going over into storage. The 30 cubic meters of heavy oil residue go into this refinery here, which just turns it into some fuel, which we send over into our fuel generators for power. But the end product ends up in these packagers in front, which will take the 120 fuel from these refineries and split it amongst the 3 of them, and takes the 120 empty canisters from the 2 constructors and again splits it between the 3 of them. So every packager here will get an equal amount of 40 cubic meters of fuel and 40 empty canisters, so that we produce 40 packaged fuel from every packager. So from all of this setup, I think we will end up with 120 packaged fuel every minute. But there's only real one way to test all of this, and that's to power it on. I would love to use these fuel generators, but I get the feeling I'm going to need to connect this to the main power grid first, just to kickstart things. Then those ones there can take over. And I've actually found out that there's a rather handy shortcut just between the mountains here, from our oil refinery setup and our fuel power plants, right over to our new refinery setup over here for our packaged fuel. So I didn't actually need to scale that mountain to begin with. But we'll head over and check that everything's set up and working correctly. Which, by the sounds and looks of things, everything does seem to be operational so far. I know the fuel generators aren't actually going to get just enough fuel to keep them running at all points, so they will stop start, but it's really just a use for the fuel coming from the refinery there, rather than it actually being used for actual power. But our end product with our packaged fuel is actually looking pretty decent. The numbers for those are climbing pretty quickly. So I'd say our little setup here is actually working pretty well. Well, I'm actually going to take some of this packaged fuel and we will go see about getting this jetpack, which I do now have all of the components for. So Let's get the upgrade. And then we'll make ourselves our jetpack. Brilliant. Okay, we've now got another easy way to get around places, so long as I keep watching out for my fuel levels. Well, whilst I'm at the hub, I may as well get the Monorail Train Technology upgrade. The milestone cost for it is pretty simple to get now that we've got all of those components. So whenever the pod returns, we'll get this upgrade next, and I'll get the Pipeline Engineering Mark II one as well, which will be all of the Tier 5 and Tier 6 upgrades that we can then get, which means that we are then in good stead to start upgrading our main factory, because although it's nice to make the small outpost factories elsewhere, it's still a pain getting to them, but the train should help us bring those resources over to us, so that we don't need to deal with trucks or tractors. And with our upgraded logistics, we're going to start being able to produce a lot more components as well. Because so far, this factory here is very good at making components to feed to other factory machines to make more components, but I'm not really getting a lot out in storage. Ideally, I would love to overproduce some items so that I could at least store some and then send the rest of them away to make other components, which I feel our upgraded logistics will really help with. But I'm also aware with our current recipes that we're probably going to always be limited to the amount of components being made. So now that I have the jetpack as well, it's very tempting to head out and find some more hard drives just to get some more alternative blueprints. So we'll place all of our components into here, and we will get our Monorail Train Technology. So I can now set up some trains out at those outposts and bring the materials to us. Well, fortunately, we do have a bit of time before our pod returns, before I can continue getting those upgrades. So I'm thinking in the meantime, we will head out and see if we can find any more hard drives. And although some of the crashes are still pretty local to our main factory, I probably should go out at some point and get the quartz so that we can unlock our map, just to make this whole process easier. But at least this drop pod here is fairly simple, 35 motors, and an easy hard drive for us. So yes, before I do continue my hunt for them, I am going to locate my raw quartz and get those upgrades first. Then we can start looking for these hard drives. And our quartz node is actually rather close as well, just about 400 meters away. So hopefully it will be an okay purity. Well, it's just of normal purity, and some rather big nasties there as well. But it will do for now. Well, we'll just go back to basics for now, and just put down this little portable miner. He'll get us out some raw quartz, and then we can put it into the MAM and see what upgrades we can get with it. And is that another crash site over here actually? It looks that way, so what do we need to do? We need 2 crystal oscillators and 15 megawatts to open this one. Interesting. Seeing as the crystal oscillators are the next component that we will unlock with our quartz research. So we'll make some of these quartz crystals then, and get ourselves a crystal oscillator, and then get ourselves a nice hard drive. And that's just good timing actually. There's our MAM research done for our hard drive, and we've just hit 100 of these quartz crystals. So we can get ourselves an alternative recipe for our iron plates, but it's going to use steel and plastic to make them. The second one is an alternative for heavy oil residue, which I think I'm going to take actually, because I don't want charcoal and I don't want to waste plastic, so heavy oil residue. And we'll start the research for our crystal oscillators here as well. So that's them now done, and we'll stick another hard drive on as well. So we'll be able to make 2 crystal oscillators, which I think is what we require, using 36 quartz crystals, some cable and reinforced iron plates. So this should be our crystal oscillators, and with some power in this as well, that should be our hard drive. So the next research on our quartz tree is this Signal Technologies one, and I'm not sure if that's going to give us our map, but we are going to require 5 crystal oscillators for it. So I'll just sit back and make those, whilst we wait on the hard drive being done. Although I am impatient, and I have just found another hard drive over here, so we'll go get it first. Okay, let's see if we can do this slowly and tactfully, land on top of it. And we need heat sinks. I actually think I may have found some heat sinks. Oh, if we get away from this, I might head back up there and see, because I swear I did. Right, nasties, we need to not be killing me. Like that. How fortunate for saves. And look, we actually do have 7 heat sinks that I dropped. So I think we'll very carefully try all of that again. And there's heat sinks right underneath us too. Well, at least this will be open. Give it a hard drive, and I'm leaving for now. Right, nasties, don't be killing me. I've got the hard drive, I've done the hard part. That's kinda killing me. Well, I actually seen our MAM research just finished, so yes, we have unlocked some more blueprints. There's one for our circuit boards, which will take petroleum, coke and rubber into. The same one for our steel coated plates that I'm not really sure about. It's actually the blueprints like this pure Caterium ingot here that I'm looking for, which will allow us to take some ore, water and make some bars with them. As normally this Caterium ingot would require 3 Caterium ores in order to manufacture it, but with this recipe here we would use 2 Caterium ores and water as a substitute, which we do have an abundance of water, so could certainly use that. So I am going for this pure Caterium ingot recipe, and I really hope that we do find more for the other types. But I've got 6 of 5 crystal oscillators, so we will get this Signal Technologies upgrade, which has unlocked the Explorer car for us, although I will need some more crystal oscillators, and frequency mapping as well, which will give us our map. More crystal oscillators and beacons for it. Okay, I need to find my way out of this cave and back up to our quartz then to start making more of these components. And try my hardest to stay away from nasty buggers like that. And not corner myself in an area with 3 of them, because that does not sound ideal. Although easy power slugs. And we are out of the cave. Perfect. Let's go back to our quartz. That was not pleasant. But what is pleasant is that we have some more blueprints to choose from. Well, the first one for pure quartz crystals are similar to the Caterium ingots one, where we take the ore plus water to make the components. There's also another recipe for modular frames and cable as well, although this is still going to take rubber into account, which I don't really want to do. I'm not really sure which one between the 2 here to choose. Eventually I would like to get all of the hard drive recipes, but for now I think we'll just choose this one. And because I've now made the components, we'll also get the frequency mapping research. So once that's done, we should have our map unlocked, which will make things a lot easier for me to go around exploring trying to find these hard drives. So I'll see you guys shortly with a brand new map and hopefully a lot more hard drives. Well, a short while later, we're back in the factory after collecting quite a lot of hard drives. As you can see from the map, we did a little bit of exploring around the place, and all the beacons that you see are locations of hard drives that we found. I won't go through all of the blueprints that we got, but I will go through some of the key ones, because as you can see, we do actually have quite a lot of new alternative recipes for our items. But I would say the most useful recipes are actually now found within our refineries, especially whenever it comes to ingots, which now use water as a substitute for the ore. And the recycled plastic recipe, alongside the recycled rubber recipe, is going to be very helpful as well, as this is going to allow us to use fuel to turn some of the components into other components just to make the refineries a bit more efficient. There was one blueprint in particular that caught my interest, this automated miner one, which as far as I can tell only creates portable miners for us, but they're going to require a lot more components just to be manufactured within a machine. So I'm not actually sure the use of a recipe to make portable miners at the moment, but we do have that now as well. But with the refineries now able to make ingots for us just using water, I think it's time that we upgrade our foundry setup here and produce even more of every type of ingot. But just before I look into that, I did actually come across a couple of purple power slugs, so we'll unlock the research for that. So now every purple power slug that we find is actually going to be worth 3 power shards. And once I put in the remainder of those copper sheeting, that's us got everything for our Pipeline Engineering Mark II upgrade, so we'll fire that away and we'll get our upgraded pipes. And I think that pipeline upgrade will be quite useful here, especially as we are about to start handling a lot more fluids for these refineries. And the Pipeline Mark IIs themselves are now going to require plastic as well as copper sheeting to make, but they are going to allow us to transport up to double the amount of fluid every minute. While I do have plans of upgrading our factory across the way with our new logistics as well as our new alternative blueprints, but again just before we do, I think it's probably now appropriate to start taking some of the items from our outposts and bring them back here via train, just so that we have everything that we're manufacturing coming back into one singular place. So I think now's the appropriate time for us to start looking into making some train stations and some trains, to then start bringing components back to our main factory, starting off with this packaged fuel. And I don't think it's too complicated a process of placing down these train stations, just trying to align everything the right way is probably the only difficult part. But I think as long as everything connects up to the main train station, and we give the trains a big enough turning circle, then I think it's pretty much just down to placing a train, having some components come into the train station, and then placing down some track towards where we want it to go. So now we just need to make another train station for this packaged fuel to be delivered to it, which means having the fun of pulling this railway all the way back there. Well, we now have a rather long, messy train track leading all the way back to the main factory that leads into this rather messily placed train station, which is just temporarily placed for now, but I do actually think I have an idea of what I would like to do with some train stations once we start establishing this mega factory properly. But this was all just really an exercise for me to remember how trains work. But I think everything is set up right. All we now need to do is place down a train and see if we can get our packaged fuel back to the main factory. So we'll select our train and place it on the tracks, and then add a freight cart right behind it. So if I remember right, we come inside our timetable, we'll just click on the train, which I'll not give it a name just now, but we'll establish a timetable for it from our packaged fuel to whatever this place is called, which that looks fine to me. So let's establish the autopilot on. No timetable. No, okay, well, something's working at least. There's the train now starting to move. So, in hindsight, I should have got onto it to make sure we are going to collect our packaged fuel. Okay, well, at least we got onto the train, so we'll head out and make sure that this is actually going to deliver the packaged fuel into the train. And just where I have this train line, actually, I will be able to connect other train stations up to deliver other components to it as well. So we could have our computers and plastic eventually go into the train too, and all of those go back. And yes, we'll just ignore all of the clipping that we've got, but at least the train works. So I am hoping that I've set this up so that we will fill the train up with our packaged fuel. I can see it already lined up there, so once the train actually gets into position, we'll see if it's going to be loaded up or not. Which we're now in place, and I can see the arm move over, so I think we've maybe got this set up correctly. And that's our packaged fuel now loaded in. So I'm hoping the train will take off and we'll head back towards the main factory, and our other packaged fuel will go back into the train station, which it does seem to be. Yes, that's moving along. So good, I think we've got our train set up correctly here. Well, the moment of truth to see if I've actually set this train station up to collect, which I probably haven't actually, so let's quickly do that before it runs away. No, it should be unloading actually. Okay, so that should take our packaged fuel out, and we should now have a lot of packaged fuel at our mega factory. I don't actually know how much we're going to have inside the crate there, but if we can at least get 480 packaged fuel every minute into the train and then out to here, I'll be able to do something with that. How much did we get out? That's certainly a lot more than 480. But we'll need to see with the next load coming over, because at minimum, if I could have 480 packaged fuel come over here, I will be able to take that out and feed a lot of fuel power generators. Which power they provide is definitely going to be required here, because I've got some big plans of what I want to do with this factory, which is going to involve a lot of smaller sub-factories, which is going to drain our power massively. Because I'm thinking now, in tangent with our new blueprints to be able to make more components from less, as well as our new expanded power infrastructure, I really am going to start being able to expand things out a lot here. Just going from the small upgrade from smelters to foundries, I was able to make a lot of components from all of that. So just think how much we'll be able to make whenever we actually start using these refineries. And I do have a rough design in mind whenever it does come to making this mega factory, which should hopefully incorporate the space elevator inside it. But I think today we've definitely sown a lot of seeds for things that are really going to help here. New expanded power, new expanded logistics, new expanded transport, and some new recipes for components. I'm thinking next time we actually take everything that we've managed to do today and start getting things put into full production. But as always, thank you very much for watching. I do get the feeling that the next episode is going to be a very busy one, and I can't wait to see you guys then.